Hello and welcome back to Rev Endurance Sports and another video on nutrition. I've done several videos on nutrition, but it just always seems to come up. And I just saw another video on GCN pop up and I'm thinking, God, they must have done 100 videos on nutrition. But this is how things keep getting fed on your feed. And so the same thing with my videos on nutrition. They're probably not getting promoted up in the feed, so let's do another video on it. Now, of course, I'm going to talk about my product throughout the video, but there are other things here that I will talk about as options, and they're available through me. But the important thing is that you fuel yourself, and then how to figure out how to fuel yourself. That's what the content is primarily about. So question is, how do you know if you've got your fueling right? Well, simple things like, how do I feel during? How do I feel at the end of my ride? And how do I feel afterwards? So for example, during, I'll list some examples about that, but I have this concept about the last climb of the day. And people who ride with me know that the last climb of the day is the only one that matters. So you can, sprint up rollers all day. You can take off on climbs throughout the ride. But to me, the only climb that really matters is the last climb of the day. And if you paced yourself right and you fueled yourself right, then you just feel fine. Or you feel more energetic than your mates. So that's at the end of the ride. So during, I'll get to, at the end of your ride, at the end of the ride, you're still on it. And then at the end, as in when you're off the bike. If you are ravenous, if you are dizzy or any of these kinds of things, you didn't fuel right during the ride because you're so depleted. And now your body says, hey, my goodness, that was a really long or hard effort. And I'm starving, right? So that's how you can kind of tell if you got your fueling right during your ride. So let's cover a couple of things. If you've had stomach upset, if you've had cramps, if you've had highs and lows during the ride, if you've had mood swings from elation to grumpiness and back to elation, if you've had any type of haze or fog, or you're not thinking clearly, or you're missing turns because you're not focused, that's another indication that you're just not fueling enough. If you've got gas or bloating, then those GI issues are also an indication you didn't fuel right. So if you notice, I talked about things that could be a symptom of too much nutrition or too little nutrition. Right? So let's continue to break some of this stuff down. So question is, how much per hour? Now, as of late, we are hearing that the pros are doing 120 grams of carbs per hour. If you need to make the conversion back and forth, it's basically times 4 for calories. So 100 grams of carbs is 400 calories. So just so you can use that comparison. If you are on the gram scale or if you're on the calorie scale, some people talk, but it's the same kind of thing. So we're hearing 120 grams, so that's 480 calories per hour. Some of you are probably like, oh my God, I would have a drastic issue with my stomach if I take in that many calories. So thing is, you can train your stomach just as well as you can train your legs. You can take on more carbs, but it also depends on what you're taking in, right? So you have to decide what that is. And the concept that I've often told people is keep your receipts. In other words, you take a gel, you eat a bar, you have Cliff Blocks, keep those packages. Jess knows I keep those packages. I come home, I add them up, I divide it by the time I was on the bike, and then I have an analysis. How did I feel? I took in this many calories. this many grams of carbs. How did I feel during the ride and how did I end the ride? Okay, so keep your receipts. I know a lot of people don't like to carry their packages, and the first time that the group stops or they stop, they dump everything out in the trash can. That's okay if you know exactly how many packets you took with you, which will lead us to another point in a minute. But keep your receipts so you know how much you took in and then evaluate how you felt. All right. So they, in that video, they do talk about 30 grams on the low end, 60 to 90 grams, and then, you know, up as much as 120. So I've always told people a minimum of 200 calories per hour. So that would be 2 scoops of this, right? 2 scoops of this, and that would get you 200 calories per hour. Okay, so about 50 grams of carbs. So, you know, kind of on the low end of medium to high intensity, right? Because around 30 grams, you know, you're thinking, all right, the intensity isn't high, duration isn't long, and I can use some fat stores instead, which we all have plenty of, right? No matter how rail thin you may be, you still have plenty of fat stores. It's just the body's smart enough to always keep that in reserve for an energy source. Okay, so you decide how you take that fueling. And going back to those first couple of things, if you feel cramping or bloating or a fog or a haze, well, fog or haze means you're not getting enough glucose to your brain. So you need to increase your calorie intake. And if you're struggling, more calories, or you're bloated, you've taken in too much, right? Okay, so that sounds pretty simple, but still. Now, as I mentioned, there's this huge promotion for high carb drinks. You got the EFS, you've got Scratch with their super carb. You got all these other things. Look, most of those don't mix well. That's why I'm always talking about this product. This product mixes extremely well at 600 calories per bottle, so 150 grams. It just mixes extremely well, and it has no flavor, right? So that's why I created the product, because I use it for my own fueling needs. So let's talk about how you carry all these carbs or calories. I usually go out with my pockets pretty much full because I always take extra. I put fuel in my bottles because I consider drinking a plain water bottle pretty much a waste of a calorie carrying vessel. Now that could mean, look, just put 1 scoop of this in there. That's 100 calories. It literally will continue to taste like water. It has no flavor. So, but you can sip that and it's at least still be getting in some calories, because I just don't think that plain water on your bottle is all it's cracked up to be. If you know you can stop at other places, load up your calories in your bottles a little bit more, and then you know you're going to stop, you can dilute it, or you know you're going to drink plain water separately. Because I find that too many people fuel too little, and then they're wondering why they don't feel good on their ride. Okay, so we've got the pockets, we've got the frame bags. The wonderful thing about gravel is you now have all these other bags we never had before as roadies or endurance cyclists or ultra cyclists. So now you got a burrito bag, you know, bar bag. You've got top tube bags, which, you know, we had that in the triathlete world. You've got frame bags. You've got all these bags to carry more and more nutrition. Don't be afraid to take it with you. If you don't use it and it's prepackaged, just put it back in the shelf when you get home. But you have to have it with you, right? So let's say, so as I'm consulting people when they purchase Rev Energy, I am amazed at how many people do not know their fueling rate. I asked them, how many grams of carbs or calories per hour do you consume? Where do you feel just right? I'm amazed how many people don't know that. So you have to know that, and then you can plan accordingly. But I'm amazed at how many people don't know what is a good fueling rate. And I was going to talk about your car. I mean, you wouldn't go out on a trip on half a tank if you know the trip is hundreds and hundreds of miles away. You'd fill up your tank and then you'd go, and then, you know, somewhere along the line you may have to do another refill, but you start off with a full tank. So this is the concept of the carb loading the night before and stuff like that. So pasta feeds, I don't know, something else, maybe a product. Start with a full tank, but you have to know your fueling rate during the ride, because those glycogen stores, it's a limited amount, right? So let's talk about, because there's always going to be some athlete that says, yeah, but I'm fat adapted. Yeah, I was too for many years. And I found that the intensity, if the intensity is low, which is kind of an oxymoron, intensity being low, you just don't need as much. But Inigo San Milan says you still are using carbs even at a very low riding rate. So you still need some carbs, but we'll get back into some of this other stuff in a minute. Now, personally, you have to decide whether you like prepackaged products or not. I like them because it just makes the math easy for me. And you have to, of course, read the labels. So like, for example, I know that this is 37 grams of carbs, but this one I don't remember, so I'm going to look at it real quick. I'm shooting a video, sir. All right, so total carbohydrates 23 in this one, 110 calories, and then this one is 150 calories. So generally speaking, you have to look at each one of the packets, and then you have to decide, okay, duration and intensity. Your body has no clue miles. You know, I mean, in an indirect way, yeah, if you rode 100 miles and it takes you 6 hours, then it knows, oh, I need to fuel for 6 hours. Or you say to yourself, I need to fuel for 6 hours. But generally speaking, the concept is duration and intensity. So if you are riding at a high intensity, you need more carbs. If you're riding for 4 hours, 6 hours, 8 hours, you need more calories, carbs, right? So you have gels, you have a powdered mix, you have some powdered mix that's individually packaged. That's cool. You have blocks, right? Now, you can decide how you take in your calories. If you've seen my videos before, you know that I have made sandwiches as well. I have sandwiches, some with protein, some just more carb heavy. So you can use real food, but you have to know, okay, how many calories is that? And how many hours am I riding? Duration and intensity. Those are the two key factors to decide how much you need to take with you. I suggest you take as much with you as possible. Buying stuff from convenience stores gets expensive. As a matter of fact, Jess suggested that I make a comparison between riding a double century and riding a brevet, and the cost analysis of that, and then of course using a product like mine. All right, so we'll get into that. So duration and intensity, I mean, those are just fancy words for how long and how hard or easy am I going to ride. All right, so one concept that is very, very important is I suggest you start ingesting calories literally from the off. As soon as you start pedaling that bike, you start taking something in. I think too many people wait too long before they start either fueling or hydrating. So this becomes a problem because it's a compounded thing. So some of you who have been around a long time have heard this saying for a long, long time. But I hopefully, may have some new cyclists on this video. Drink before you're thirsty, eat before you're hungry. If you've heard that one before, make a comment down below. Yeah, I heard it 20 plus years ago, right? And it's a very good concept to adopt. If you wait until you're thirsty, you've waited too long. Thirst mechanism fails you sometimes. And by the time you are hungry, you've also waited too long. So you want to stay at a point where you're taking in enough calories that you're not full, but you're not hungry, right? See that balance? It's always such a balance. And hydration as well, right? Okay, so one of the strategies I use is like these Cliff Blocks. Now I think it's 200 per packet, if I remember correctly. Yep, 200 per packet, right? So what I do is there's 6. I take 2 every 20 minutes, right? And it's a nice digestible amount for me at my calorie burn and the way my body processes things, right? 2 of these, about 66 calories. And I just keep taking those in. So about 15 grams of carbs, just a number. And I just take them in every 20 minutes. And then a swig if I need to, right? Plus, eating Cliff Blocks doesn't feel like I'm having nutrition. It's like a big gummy bear, right? As I mentioned before, a gel. Gel 100 grams, 80 grams, 150 grams. They come in so many different sizes. But if you take one, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, and then take another one within 20 minutes, 30 minutes, you just keep that going. That's how you stay on top of this hunger knock, bonk, these kinds of things, right? Okay. Honestly, to me, the easiest way to get nutrition is to just put it into your bottle. Put a couple of scoops in your bottle, something like this. It doesn't taste like anything. And we were talking earlier about high carb drinks. You can put 400 calories, which is 100 grams of carbs in your bottle. It won't taste like anything. And you could down it and you won't have stomach upset. So, but I strongly believe fuel in your bottles. Pick a fuel, any fuel. If you don't want to use mine, that's great. Pick a fuel. I suggest you put it in your bottle and just sip, sip, sip. All right, let's get into, so glycogen being stored in your muscles. We know that this is a thing. There's glycogen in your liver, there's glycogen in your muscles, right? But we tend to think that that's only good for about 60 to 90 minutes, maybe as far as 120 minutes. They say a highly trained athlete, whatever that means, can store up to 2 hours, 120 minutes worth of energy in their muscles, or liver, I guess, all of it combined. If you're a low carb athlete, you're still storing some glycogen from your body making it, but the challenge is going to be that during your intense exercise, you can't recreate enough glucose, right? So that's why we talk about supplementing with products, or whatever real food you want to eat. Now, one thing that I did want to cover that I don't know that I've covered yet, but on short rides, I just don't think people need calories with them. You can take something maybe as the emergency gel packet, like the $10, $20 bill in your toolkit. But I think that when you go out for a shorter ride, if you've had breakfast, you can go out with plain water, maybe some electrolytes, and then you come home and you have a recovery meal. So what is a short ride? If we go back to that glycogen stores, maybe 60 minutes to 2 hours maybe. You should be able to be fine. You come home, so you've eaten before, you eat after, you should be fine. We're talking about a century ride, right? So we need a lot more than that. We talked about that fog. I mean, this is important for the 100-miler, but even further than that, for ultras. Keeping the glucose or keeping the carbs coming in keeps that brain fueled because, well, that's what it uses. So you have to, in my opinion, if you start to feel a little woozy, that's because you need more carbs in. And what I've discovered over the years, because I've been doing ultras for 20 plus years, is that overnight, when I start to get sleepy, if I throw in more carbs and my brain is, reignited and active again, I'm riding through the night now on my 600 Ks and 1200 Ks. So this has really turned my performance around as far as my total time on a 600K or 1200K. So 600K is 373 miles and 1200K is 750 miles. So more carbs in the brain to keep you going. Now another concept that I want to cover with you is, I suggest, you do you, that you keep your carbs, your electrolytes, and of course your hydration. I suggest you keep some of that as separate as possible. I did mention put fuel in your bottles, but there are times you're going to need straight water because you need to start passing everything through your GI tract. And if you're not hydrating enough, you just can't get it through. But the reason I like those things separate, especially carbs and electrolytes. Now, I've got a electrolyte product that I'm working on, but it's just a lot of red tape to get new products launched when you don't have a team of people to delegate stuff to. But if it's hot out, you'll need more electrolytes. If it's cool out, you'll need less electrolytes. If you're riding at higher intensity, you need more electrolytes. If you're riding at an easier intensity, you need less electrolytes. So you want to keep your fueling rate the same, but you can alter your hydration and your electrolytes based on heat conditions or intensity, right? So that's why I like these things separate. But like I said, you do you. So I've been watching a lot of Andy C. Ultra Cycling channel. And a couple of things that have come up just recently is, keeping his calories up, his carbs. And he talked about setting an alarm, and I saw some comments down in his comments section. I don't need an alarm, and it's maybe because I've been riding for so long. So if you're new and you need an alarm, Garmin, your app, your watch, smartwatch, or your Wahoo, Garmin, whatever computer you may use may have an alarm setting on it. Use it. I would say shorten the parameters so it's just constant, and then eventually it'll become muscle memory. And that's where I want you to get to. I want you to get to muscle memory. For example, last Saturday I did a 200-miler solo, so 322 kilometers. And I had a hydration pack. So if you want a separate video on what my nutrition strategy was for that, make a comment down below and I will do that. But I had a hydration pack. And because this muscle memory is built in already, so these are a couple of things that I do. So I drink before I drop. So as I crest a hill, I drink before I drop. I drink before I stop. So stoplight, stop sign. I drink before I stop. This is all just muscle memory. When I stand up, I take a few pedal strokes and sit back down. It's muscle memory. I reach for my bottle again. So if you can adopt those 3 methods over time, they become muscle memory. Here's why I'm saying that. I had a hydration pack on, and every time one of those circumstances would come up, I was reaching for my bottle, but I wanted to save those bottles for later. I had a specific plan with my hydration pack. So muscle memory can be built, right? So you just have to focus on doing the same thing over and over and over again. And after a while, you don't even think about it. You don't need an alarm. You don't need anything. You just drink and you eat, and it's just an automatic thing without you thinking about it. Now, there's the challenge is how to keep the fueling rate consistent, because we just talked about fueling rate and then electrolytes separate. You know, there are times you're in a group setting and the group's going hard, or it's sketchy and you don't want to take your hands off the bars. So, you know, you may have to wait a little bit, or you've got technical terrain because you're on a gravel bike or a mountain bike. So this is important on, okay, I know that this is coming up. I'm going to fuel before it. Okay, I just went through a hard section. I need to fuel after it because I'm going to start breaking down. Again, fuel in the bottles. If you are riding with a group and someone flats or has a mechanical, or you yourself have a flat or a mechanical, I suggest the very first thing you do is take in some calories. Whether that is drink something, eat something, then start working on the flat. If you're not the one impacted by this mechanical, and there's 3 or 4 of you, really only takes about 2 people to change a flat. One guy maybe to help the other guy with the tools, and the other gal is working on the tire. Everyone else is eating and drinking. Your heart rate has come down. You're calm for 3 to 10 to 20 minutes, depending what type of mechanical you have. Immediately, once those wheels stop and you're not associated with the repair, eat and drink. I tell everyone the same thing. When you pull into a convenience store or something like that, unless you're completely out of anything, or you know you're going to pull into this convenience store, finish either your bottle or a sag stop. Finish your bottle so you roll in with empty bottles if that's appropriate, or eat something as you're rolling in, because then you've got a few minutes where your heart rate is down and you're able to process those calories, right? So that's really, really important. Or like Jess just bonked on a previous video, and we were stopped for like an hour talking to somebody. That's when we should have taken in some calories. We were just sitting there, conversation, and we could have digested more calories during that time. So I know some folks struggle with eating or drinking while riding. I would suggest maybe sliding as far back as possible on your saddle when you reach for your bottle. I don't know, because I don't know your bike fit and I don't know how you're set up, but you should be able to ride your bike with no hands and do stuff, but at least one-handed so you can reach for your bottle. I can't tell you how many times we roll up to a light and we stop, person reaches for the bottle, oh, light turned green, then they got to put the bottle back in the bike and roll off. They missed an opportunity to fuel. So drink before you drop, drink before you stop. Okay. So what happens if you are, you've waited too long, you're bonking now, or you're close to it? You need to slow down. In ultras and doubles, we call it digestive pace. You need to slow down a little bit and then start taking in more calories. You may not be able to take a bunch of it. It just depends what you're using. If you use my product, you can take in a good amount of calories, and your stomach won't bunch up. But I would suggest, I mean, it just depends on the terrain you ride. You know, maybe a windy section, a not windy section. Maybe you have a hill you crest, take in a lot of calories before you drop. Hopefully it's a mountain and you got a good long stretch of time to start getting those calories on board. You know, it always will depend on your terrain. If you have an opportunity to stop, some of the comments on Jessica's video, some people like ice cream, some people like candy bars. So seek something of comfort. I'm sure it will work for you. Even if at least emotionally it will get you back, right? I love a Coke when I ride. There's a video, I don't know that I posted it yet, but there's a video where Jess and I went out for a ride and I was feeling like crap. And all I could think about was getting to this convenience store and drinking a Coke. And I felt a lot better on the return, right? So do what you have to get back, right? To get your spirits up again. And it's generally things you wouldn't eat on when you're off the bike in your daily in your day, right? And then I know we talked lightly about low carb athletes, high fat. Look, I did that for years and years, probably 8 to 10 years, not sure. But I always found that there was some punch missing in my ability. But if it works for you, then you probably already switched off of this video a long time ago. But if you're still here, you still need carbs. I know, yeah, but the intensity is going to be much, much lower. So when we talked about the electrolytes being separate, there's several different, just a couple of things I have sitting here. There's a couple of things like this, there's Noon, Noon tablets, there's Salt Stick. There's all kinds of ways to get your electrolytes separately. This gel has the electrolytes in it. I just noticed that I still had some props here that I didn't talk about. And then with my product, because it doesn't have any flavor, I love this company here. Just found them, and their flavors are just so good. I mean, they just taste amazing. But you have to watch how much you put in there, because one thing I didn't talk about yet is, you know, you're getting dehydrated if the things that you were drinking weren't sweet and now they feel overbearingly sweet. That's why my product has no flavor, because the longer you ride, the more dehydrated you're getting, the sweeter something is going to taste. So do this experiment if you will. Go to a 7-Eleven convenience store, buy yourself some Gatorade when you know that you feel well hydrated, and then compare that to when you've been on a ride and dehydrated and how sweet it tastes, right? So the most common complaint I get here in the shop with folks is, oh, that product is fine, but you know, after 3-4 hours, it's just so syrupy, it's so sweet and whatever. And it's like, well, no, you're just dehydrated. So what you need is a carbohydrate that doesn't have any flavor, so you can continue to drink it even after you're dehydrated. So anyway, I know I'll have some questions, so please drop those below. We can have a discussion about them. I will continue to do these types of videos because folks need to get the information, and I don't know that I'm popping up high enough on people's feeds. So anyway, thank you so much for tuning in. Please like and subscribe. We'll see you up the road.